Hello and welcome back to Crypto Saving Experts, where we talk about the latest cryptocurrency news and take a look at the markets so that we all know exactly what is happening. I feel like we're really zoomed out today. Let's zoom in a little bit. Let's check out, I'm moving the wrong way here. There we go. This should be a little bit better. Let's check out what's going on with the price of Bitcoin today. A microphone would be good here as well. I'm now super zoomed in. Let's see what's going on in terms of the price of Bitcoin here. We've got Bitcoin sat at $46,600 and we have Ethereum sat at $2,300 there as well. So they've both moved up really nicely. 3% for Ethereum and 5.6% for Bitcoin, all in anticipation of those spot Bitcoin ETFs, which hopefully will be getting launched tomorrow. Let's take a look at the biggest gainers and losers of the day, and then we'll get into those spot Bitcoin ETFs talk. There's lots to talk about there. First of all, what we've got here is $6.42 for helium, up 30% within the last 24 hours. BSV is up 20.5%, and we've got SEI and Lido in the top gainers as well, with 14 and 15% gains. In terms of biggest losers, we're looking at Zcash there, down almost 7%. Clay is down over 21%, and Monero and Decred are down slightly there, but nothing to be worried about, 2 and 3% there. So we are seeing some movements in the markets this morning. All of us have eyes on Bitcoin right now. It's a really interesting one here. Let's take a look at what is going on in the live chat this morning. Good morning, Justin. Good morning, PG. Thank you very much for tuning in once again. Let's see what's going on here. Boris says, can you make yourself louder, please? Oh, I can try to. Let's see if I can fix that. Let's see what the problem is here. So it should be that that you can hear me okay. Let's see if that makes it a little bit better. Does that make it better? Can you hear me better now? Let me know if that has solved the problem. I don't know if that has solved the problem. Let's take a look. It should have... I don't know. Let me know if that solved the problem or not. Good morning, Stuart. Thank you very much for tuning in. PG says, like the new hairstyle, Jess. Thank you very much. What else have we got here? Biner says, hi. One thing that nobody talks about in Bitcoin movement is geography. Every day we see when it's time for USA and East Asia, we see bullish moves, but EU time to trade, it comes bearish. And that is definitely something to look at. That is something that I've paid a lot of attention to previously and done a lot of research on. When the different markets open, we do see some different movements. We do know that when we hit 1 p.m. in the UK, that's when America tends to open, and that tends to set a precedent for what's happening in the day. If the morning is bullish and at 1 p.m. it continues to be bullish, then you can kind of get that confirmation that we are going to have a bullish day. But I personally do look at what's happening at 1 p.m. and see what's going on there, because I do think it has an impact on the markets. Looking at the different times the different markets open and looking at the different windows that you think are more predictable is a really good strategy for trading. And make sure to always do your research into that, because the different like areas and the geography of it does affect the prices. But let's take a look at what's going on here. Jason Smith is in the chat from Australia. Boris is in the chat from the Philippines. 2 places that I've been within the last year. Loved them both. Let's take a look at what's going on in the news. In fact, let's go to Bitcoin chart first this morning and see what's happening here, because Bitcoin has increased massively within the last couple of days. Let's take a look at this. Go onto the daily chart. In fact, let's reset this. Let's bin all of our lines and let's start from the beginning, because I've seen a really interesting chart here from a Crypto Ran on Twitter, actually. If we go to the weekly chart here, he's highlighted a line that I hadn't actually paid attention to, and that line is the one that runs right across here. In fact, we might be better doing this on the daily chart, but if we zoom right out here and we look at this level of support that we had in the previous bull market, and we pull it all the way back, you can see this is going to act as a level of resistance potentially if we go up and touch that $54,000 level. So if we take a look, if we try and zoom out here a little bit more, it's not too easy to do it on this chart. You can see, do we have any previous levels of support, of resistance there as well? No, I would say it's mainly this point here where we're looking at it being used as a level. I'm not having much luck today. Has it gone? It's all gone. Let's start that again. So when we go onto this chart, on the daily chart here, you can see we use this level as a level of support in the previous bull market. In fact, we can line that up much better. If you go to this chart here and we go to extended line and we start from here and we go all the way across here, you can see that's the level of support we used in the previous bull market. We used it as a level of support twice here and as a level of support here as well. If we zoom to where we are now, this gives us a current level of resistance at $51,100. So really important level to be watching out for there. I really do think that is a crucial one to be keeping our eyes on. We are also approaching another level of resistance from the previous bull/bear market. This was the start of the bear market there at $48,320. That was seen to be pretty strong at the time. If we pull that all the way back, you can see it has been used as a level of support before and a level of resistance before it was a strong level of resistance at this point here. So definitely something to be keeping our eyes on. In terms of other levels of resistance here, we obviously have this major one at $69,000 at the current all-time high for Bitcoin. I have positive predictions for 2024, so we'll see how long that one lasts. If we take a look at what else we've got here, we do have one here that was used twice in the previous market. That's at $52,000, but that's it for levels of support of resistance on the bigger time frames here. If we have a look at what levels of support we have, we can see we do have a strong level here. And this in fact is a zone. I'm going to pull this out here. So I'm looking at this level, this zone from there to there. I would say this is a crucial one. So what we've got is a level of resistance, support, and then we've used it again numerous times here and managed to use it as a support and move to the upside there. Now that is a big range between $43,000 and $39,000 to $40,000. So a $3,000 range there that we do need to be aware of. Hopefully that does continue to hold as a strong support. If we get the ETF acceptance tomorrow, we could see some really nice movements here and continue to have this as a support. If we do get it rejected, however, I don't think any of these lines are important. If this ETF does get rejected, we will see movements that make all of these levels of support irrelevant. The price will not move and go, actually, there's a support here, we should probably stop. If this is a catastrophic event for crypto and for Bitcoin, we are going to see a massive, massive dip here. So definitely want to be careful with this. This ETF news is either going to be super bullish and super bearish. We all know that by now. A lot of us are anticipating that it will be super bullish, but we do not know for certain. And when that news comes out, just like support won't be relevant in the worst case scenario, resistance won't be relevant in the best case scenario. It will just move very, very quickly. Now, we don't know which way it's going to go, but let's take a look at what's going on with that Bitcoin ETF news today. We've got 22 likes on today, viewers on today's stream on YouTube, but only 10 likes, so make sure to hit that like button. Let's try and get to, we're a bit too zoomed in now, aren't we? Let's try and get to 40 likes on today's stream. That's what we've been achieving in the last couple of streams, and I think we can do it again. What we've got here is Bitcoin tops $47,000 as CNBC predicts Wednesday Bitcoin ETF approval. So it was actually on live television yesterday that CNBC are expecting Bitcoin's ETF to be approved. So bullish news there. It was nice to see on mainstream media. Let's see what else we've got here. So VanEck buys 1,640 Bitcoin for $72.5 million to seed ETF, holding up over $1 million before trading. So their filing showed that the company purchased Bitcoin worth $72.5 million on the 5th of January, just 4 days ago, which equates to 1,450 shares at a per share price of $50. So very nice purchases here from these issuers. You can see the anticipation from these companies that their ETFs are going to be accepted. I think if they do get delayed or rejected, there is going to be a long road ahead for the SEC. These companies aren't just going to accept the rejection here. They are going to fight for acceptance. From the looks of it, you can see they are super positive on this and expecting these ETFs to go live. So if the SEC pulls out a reason that they don't think is valid, they'll probably end up in a lawsuit, just like Grayscale did, in my opinion. So we can see here that we are seeing steps forward from these ETF issuers, all of them trying to get all their documentation in order, ready for launch on Wednesday, tomorrow, but we are also seeing them preparing and purchasing Bitcoin to launch their ETFs. What's happening here is all of these ETF applicants are anticipating that the ETFs will get accepted on Wednesday. Now, if it does get accepted on Wednesday, they all want their ETF launched and out the door as quickly as possible. There is going to be a first mover advantage here. So if you take a week to actually launch a product after acceptance, those that take a day have that huge first mover advantage. All of these issuers need their applications and their products ready to launch as soon as the SEC accepts them. Now, whether that is on Wednesday or not, they are all preparing for Wednesday, just in case, because they do not want to miss out on that first mover opportunity. Now, it is actually true that only one of these ETFs are getting a definite response tomorrow, but it is expected that all of the ETFs will get simultaneous acceptance. So because this is the first final deadline, this is the deadline at which we're all looking at, because this is the one where we would see that simultaneous acceptance. But we do have to see, I've seen a lot of chatter in a couple of crypto Twitter group chats and group chats in general about crypto, saying it looks too good to be true. Everyone thinks it's going to be bullish, so it needs to be bearish. And I just keep looking at the facts, and I can't help to feel like the SEC need to accept these applications. Typically, I normally say if everyone is bullish, I'm bearish. Bitcoin takes the path of most pain. I always like to think the opposite of the crowds. But in this scenario, the SEC are really backed into a corner. Now, there is still the possibility they can reject these ETFs, but it's really hard to find a reason as to why. Like, I can't think of any reasons as to why they will be able to do that and get away with it. I think they will end up in a huge amount of lawsuits. They could probably lose those lawsuits and then lose even more credibility after losing credibility when they lost in the lawsuits against Grayscale and in court against Ripple. The cryptocurrency community are losing respect for the SEC because they keep trying to regulate the space in an incorrect manner. So if these companies that have created these ETFs get rejected and the SEC ends up in more lawsuits, they are going to lose more and more credibility, and that is not what the SEC want to see with the cryptocurrency space. They have been working a lot very closely with these crypto ETF issuers though, and trying to help them with their documentation and trying to get these applications exactly how the SEC wants them. The companies have been amending their applications at every step of the way, and the SEC has been pushing forwards and showing what they want to see in these applications. So there's been a lot of back and forth there, a lot of conversation going on with the SEC. So the SEC is currently cooperating and working nicely with these issuers. We do just need to wait for that deadline there. Now, although the SEC has been super positive and working closely with these issuers, we have seen Gary Gensler issue stark warning about crypto investing ahead of the Bitcoin ETF position. So this is what Gary Gensler has been posting on Twitter. Before we continue, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification button so you don't miss the latest cryptocurrency news. We do these live streams every single weekday, so make sure to tune in every day and stay up to date with what's going on in the markets. Here we've got a thread, some things to keep in mind if you're considering investing in crypto assets. Those offering crypto asset investments services may not be complying with applicable law, including federal securities laws. Investors in crypto asset securities should understand they may be deprived of key info and other important protections in connection with their investment. Investments in crypto assets can also be exceptionally risky and are often volatile. A number of major platforms and crypto assets have become insolvent and or lost value. Investments in crypto assets continue to be subject to significant risk. Fraudsters continue to exploit this rising popularity of crypto assets to lure retail investors into scams. These investors continue to replete with fraud, bogus coin offerings, Ponzi and pyramid schemes, and outright theft, where a project promoter disappears with investors' money. So the typical kind of warnings when it comes to cryptocurrency. Unfortunately, we do see problems within the cryptocurrency space still because it is a new industry. With every new industry, we see growing pains, we see people trying to exploit the industry, and we do have that in the markets right now, and that is not something that we want in the future, but that is something that the industry is growing away from over time. Now, Gary Gensler, as the chairman of the SEC, is trying to protect investors. That's what a regulatory body is for. They're trying to protect investors when it comes to securities. So obviously he's going to put threads out like this. He doesn't particularly like crypto. We've seen that a lot. However, we did see in his younger years, he was a big advocate for crypto. So we're seeing that he's publicly very against crypto at this point in time. This is just kind of, this tweet is at an interesting time. But I don't think it means too much. I'm not reading into that too much. We've got some more positive news to discuss when it comes to these ETFs, and that is the S1 forms filed by spot Bitcoin ETF applicants. So the race for a spot Bitcoin ETF is hotting up with the applicants submitting their revised S1 forms. So they've put these in and submitted them to the SEC ahead of the next deadline on the 10th of January. So Valkyrie started, and then Wisdom Tree, BlackRock, VanEck, Invesco, and Galaxy, Grayscale, ARK Invest, Fidelity, Bitwise, and Franklin Templeton have all made these amendments now and submitted their S1s. So this surge in filing highlights a potential monumental week for Bitcoin, with these hopeful issuers aiming to finalize crucial details in their amendments, notably pertaining to fees and identities of potential ETF market makers. Notably, some applicants have cut their fees for their ETF product. So we did actually see yesterday a huge amount of these ETF issuers have changed how much they want to charge people with fees. So when you're buying and selling these shares, you need to pay a fee. Now, a lot of these fees for ETFs are much higher than traditional kind of the ETF fees are higher. So we've seen we are seeing BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF will start at 0.2% for the first 12 months, or $5 billion in AUM, later shifting to 0.3% in ARK and 21 Shares plan to waive their reduced 0.25% fee for 6 months following the ETF listing. So although they do have those fees in place, and this is something that we've been warning about here on the channel, we are seeing all of these issuers try and compete and have lower fees for their products. Now, what does that mean? Why are these ETF people trying to have that competition when it comes to their fees and trying to have the lowest fees in the markets? The only reason you would do that is because you're expecting to have some severe competition. Now, what does competition mean? It means you're expecting a huge amount of demand. So we're seeing them all try and lower their fees to try and entice investors into their product rather than the one next door. All of these ETFs do have the same kind of concept here. It is something, an ETF, an exchange traded fund that is backed by Bitcoin. The underlying asset is Bitcoin. Let me turn that noise off there. It's very distracting. So they're all the same product, so what would make you choose between one and the other? The answer to that is transaction fees. Now, these companies and these issuers want to have as many people come to them as possible, have the most amount of funds in their ETF as possible, so they need to be able to compete with each other. We are expecting all of these to go live simultaneously, and therefore there is going to be a huge amount of competition, and we are going to see a first mover advantage for those that get off the block first. But when it comes to this, having the lower transaction fees shows there's competition there and shows they are expecting a huge amount of demand. Now, where is this demand coming from? First of all, we are seeing retail investors looking to enter the space. We're seeing financial advisors say, look, we want to get involved if these big companies are getting involved, and maybe it's time to look. And we're seeing institutional investors. We've already seen a number of funds change their documentation so that they are allowed to expose a certain percentage of their portfolio to the Bitcoin markets. They're talking about investing in Bitcoin futures contracts, Bitcoin ETF contracts, and into Bitcoin related products. Now, we've seen a huge number of funds that are registered as securities add into their documentation that they want to get 15 to 50% of their invested funds exposure to the cryptocurrency space. So there is a huge shift coming here from retail institutional investors. And we do not forget as well, these big companies that are issuing these ETFs, they are going to be marketing these ETFs. They're going to be marketing Bitcoin as an investment product. We've already seen Bitwise produce a huge amount of adverts for Bitcoin. It's brilliant to see here. And when we see these other companies marketing Bitcoin as well, other investors are going to get involved. Financial advisors are going to be like, well, now I can get exposure to Bitcoin through this. Maybe I should research into a little bit more. Let's see what's going on here. These advisors haven't historically been allowed to invest in Bitcoin, the majority of them, but now they have the opportunity to if we get these ETFs over the line. So it is a big, big day, as Jason says there in the live chat. Let's see what else is going on. in the markets here, in the live chat here, sorry, my brain is not, I need another coffee this morning. Let's see what else is going on in the chat. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification button so you don't miss the latest cryptocurrency news. Let's see what else is going on here in the markets. So what we've got is we have the SEC lists 8 updated 19B4 filings as spot Bitcoin ETF process to near deadline. So the filing notices for 8 aspiring spot Bitcoin ETFs address market size and manipulation concerns. So they have highlighted this. We'll move on to this article here because this is a bit clearer, I think. So the SEC have returned comments on the ETF applications. The news broke last night that the SEC had commenced releasing their comments on the spot Bitcoin ETF filings. The news initially filtered through on Twitter from the CEO of the Chamber of Digital Commerce, who stated the SEC just issued additional comments on pending applicants S1. This is a delay signal. But Bloomberg's James then commented on the news, stating that he did not believe that it was a delay signal. He explained that the speed at which the SEC had turned over the documents was encouraging. Had the SEC wanted to delay the applications, they would have simply not have turned over the documents as fast. Lawyers and author Scott Johnson would further explain the situation, stating S1s do not need to be completed before 19B4s are approved. Take futures ETFs in 2022. Hashdex didn't even get initial comments until after its 19B4 was approved. More than anything, these quick comments demonstrate SEC working to push everything forward for a quick approval and launch versus what we saw with futures. Yesterday also marked the day most applicants vying for approval filed their updated S1 forms with the SEC. The SEC Form S1 is the initial form that must be submitted to the SEC in the process of approval of new securities offerings. The form lists information on the proposed use of capital proceeds, the business model, a brief perspective, the offering price methodology, and any dilution that may occur with other listed securities. So I do see this as a positive thing, and I think what Scott Johnson has said here is very, very interesting. That, look, if they wanted to delay, they would be doing things in chronological order. They wouldn't be just working to get everything done as quickly as possible. So very interesting things coming through here. Very interesting also that the deadline is tomorrow. It doesn't necessarily mean it is tomorrow. A lot of us have got eyes on tomorrow. Imagine if some news came out today. That would be absolutely crazy. Let's see what else is going on in the news here. So the SEC chair, Gary Gensler, issues start warning about crypto investing ahead of Bitcoin ETF decision. We've just had a look through that thread there. What else have we got here? Bitcoin ETFs could trade at 8% premium to spot. In-kind redemption still possible later, according to Bloomberg. So what we have with ETFs is there are 2 ways that you can create an ETF, and we have the in-kind model and then we have the cash model. So the in-kind model is a model by which you can transfer from the underlying asset, so from Bitcoin into the ETF product, so into the spot Bitcoin ETF. So I could say to BlackRock, look, I've got some Bitcoin here, I want to swap it for some of your ETF shares instead, and that would be fine. And you could swap between the two, and then you could redeem Bitcoin from your BlackRock Bitcoin spot ETF shares as well. You could say, look, I want to give you these shares back and I want Bitcoin in return. And you could do that transaction. But the SEC actually fought against this when they were having meetings with these Bitcoin ETF issuers, and they said, we don't want to have that kind of model with these spot Bitcoin ETFs. Instead, we want to have to transfer to cash in between. So instead of transferring from Bitcoin to spot Bitcoin ETFs, you need to go from Bitcoin to cash to ETF to cash to Bitcoin every time you want to swap between the underlying asset and the ETF product. Now it is stating here that in-kind redemptions are still possible later. Maybe we will see a shift to that first model I've just discussed in a couple of months' time or in a couple of years' time. But this is something that the SEC has really been pushing in these meetings with these ETF issuers, and something they've chosen to abide by because they all want to get in that first wave of ETFs across the line launching into the markets. So they're all doing exactly what the SEC say to try and make that happen. Now, in an interview on Bloomberg ETF IQ, the trading and liquidity service provider discussed the potential approval of a spot Bitcoin ETF in the US and its implications. Now, he's predicted an initial premium of approximately 8% above fair value for the ETFs, a significant figure considering the typical premiums of most conventional ETFs. Now, he noted the unique challenges faced by US broker-dealers in trading Bitcoin directly would affect the pricing of Bitcoin ETFs, primarily due to the resilience on futures contracts for hedging purposes. as futures are trading at a premium to spot Bitcoin prices. Now, he discussed the potential for ETF issuers to handle in-kind creations after amending S1 filings removed the methodology's focus across the board. Most ETF applicants had settled on cash creations and redemptions, likely to appease the SEC, but Brands still anticipates a shift towards in-kind redemptions. That's what we've just discussed there. As the SEC continues to review applications from major financial institutions, he says that the implications of Brands insights become increasingly relevant. The potential for an 8% premium on a spot Bitcoin ETF reflects the current regulatory challenges and evolving nature of Bitcoin trading with mainstream financial structures. So although we are seeing a massive decrease in the fees for these ETFs, the fees are coming in a lot lower than we expected because these issuers are expecting some competition. We are actually seeing that there may be some sort of premium there instead. Now, there is this article here that says, will spot Bitcoin ETFs be cheaper than crypto exchanges to purchase Bitcoin? Now, one of the things we've all been thinking here on the channel is ETF fees are typically much more expensive than investing in actually underlying asset. A lot of people in cryptocurrency, like myself, are choosing to stay away from these ETF products because I want to have self-custody. I want to be my own bank, and that is why I've got into cryptocurrency. I also want to stay away from paying these ETF fees. I also want to stay away from using exchanges like the NASDAQ, who can pause what I do with my money for a set period of time if there is too much volatility, as discussed in yesterday's stream. So I will be sticking to purchasing the underlying Bitcoin, purchasing the real asset, and using self-custody. But there is the question now arising, with these ETF issuers all competing to have the lowest transaction fees, will investing in an ETF actually be cheaper than investing in Bitcoin? Well, that is possible at this point in time. Now, we are seeing grayscale to slash fees to 1.5% after spot Bitcoin ETF conversion, still highest amongst rivals. There is a lot of competition to lower the fees there, but I don't think having that lower fee structure is going to entice people from cryptocurrency to invest in those ETFs. It is all good. It's showing this competition. It's showing this expected demand in the markets. So hopefully some big things to come within the next couple of days. But let's take a look at what else is going on in the cryptocurrency news. Now, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button so you don't miss the latest cryptocurrency news. We do these live streams every single weekday, Monday to Friday. So make sure to hit like, subscribe, press the bell notification button. Tune in every single day, specifically tomorrow. Do not miss tomorrow if you want to be part of the next cryptocurrency bull market. What happens tomorrow is going to determine what's going on in crypto for 2024. It is such a crucial day for the markets. We need to be prepared for it. Make sure to be watching tomorrow, 11 a.m. or earlier. If the news comes out earlier, if we do find out about these ETFs prior to 11 a.m., we'll go live straight away. If we find out this afternoon, we'll also go live. So make sure to keep an eye on the channel at Crypto Saving Expert. Let's take a look at what else is going on in the news here. The Coinbase premium is increasing ahead of the ETF. So the price gap between Coinbase and Binance is closing as the approval of the first spot Bitcoin ETF approaches. So as crypto traders closely watch the subtle yet telling sign that Coinbase is pricing, a peculiar trend emerges. The usually expected premium is negative, diverging from the norm. This anomaly raises crucial questions about what's brewing in the minds of US investors, especially as they teeter on the precipice of a major regulatory decision. Gosh, my words are not coming out today. Let's see what else is going on here. BUSD market cap drops under $1 billion as end of support looms. So BUSD obviously had those regulatory concerns. They stopped minting any new tokens, and their support is kind of dwindling as time goes on. They will be taken out of the markets essentially. What else have we got here? 105 days to go until the Bitcoin halving. So Bitcoin halving is expected to be on the 22nd of April right now, just a couple of months away. This is where the block reward cuts from 6.25 Bitcoin to 3.125 Bitcoin. And this typically has been a catalyst for a bull market for Bitcoin. So a very bullish period is here to come, especially if we get that ETF approval. Things are about to change. And even if we don't get that ETF approval, this is some positive news that we can hold on to. Let's take a look at this. DCG still owes Bitcoin US dollar to Genesis, filing suggests. So DCG has publicly claimed it had repaid the loan it owed to its bankrupt subsidiary Genesis, but now it's coming out that maybe it's not. Maybe it's not paid the whole of that loan yet. What else have we got here? OpenAI reveals talks of partnership with the New York Times prior to copyright lawsuit allegations. So OpenAI published a blog post on January the 8th in which it responded to an ongoing lawsuit previously initiated by the New York Times. On December the 27th, the newspaper alleged in a lawsuit that OpenAI violated copyright law and used millions of its articles to train automated chatbots. OpenAI, however, claims that the New York Times had omitted key details from its account of events leading up to the lawsuit. Notably, OpenAI said that it and the newspaper had discussed cooperation prior to the lawsuit. So big squabbles going on here. Let's take a look at what's going on in the chat. Paul says, I listen to you every day. I'm a plasterer in the UK, hoping my Bitcoin will help me retire earlier. Yeah, congratulations for purchasing that Bitcoin at this point in time in the markets. If you are in the markets now, you have a huge advantage here. How many times do we see the markets go up and people say, oh, how do I invest when Bitcoin's at an all-time high? So being in the markets now is definitely something that can be life-changing. So congratulations for getting in this early. Thank you very much for tuning in with me every day. And I hope that Bitcoin performs exactly as we all want it to, so we can all retire early and go and live on a beach somewhere. Let's go to see what's going on here. Everything is energy, says don't be scared. This is gonna go crazy. What's going on? Monkey Nut says, hi Paul, just don't spread yourself too thin. I like that. Let's take a look at what's going on in the chat here. No, not in the chat. In the markets today. I really need a second coffee this morning. Let's take a look at what's going on here. So if we go onto the smaller time frames, we've already analysed the daily chart for the day. We can see on the 30-minute, 15-minute chart, in fact, let's see what's going on here. We have a small level of resistance that we could be looking... Oh, I didn't mean to click there. So we have a level of resistance that runs right across here. This is actually a pretty strong level of resistance there. Currently trading at $46,770. We also have a level of resistance here. If you are trading with leverage at this point in time, I don't know how you're doing it. I am being very cautious right now. I always say that I am a very cautious investor. Right now I am being super cautious. Volatility can hit this market at any point in time. The Bitcoin ETF deadline is tomorrow, but we may hear some news today that creates a huge amount of volatility, and I'm prepared to enter in either scenario, but I am just sitting on the sidelines right now waiting to see what's to come here. In terms of levels of support on the 15-minute chart, I'm looking at $46,420. This is a symmetrical triangle which has a higher probability of continuing in the previous pattern. So if we were just going off chart analysis, this would suggest we are more likely to see a break to the upside. However, we are not just going off technical analysis right now. Drawing lines on the chart isn't going to be too helpful within the next 48 hours because the news is really going to decide what's going to happen here. So make sure to stay tuned. Make sure to hit like, subscribe, press that bell notification button on today's stream. Make sure to tune in tomorrow, or if any big news breaks today, we will be immediately going live. So make sure to stay tuned. Press the bell notification button so you don't miss any. That's all for today. Thank you very much for watching, and we will be back here tomorrow, if not